The massive alien ships dropped out of hyperspace like dark clouds gathering before a storm. 500 warships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built, took positions around Earth's moon. Their hulls gleamed with a metallic, purple finish that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The ships moved with perfect coordination, forming attack formations that had conquered 1,000 worlds across 3 galactic sectors. Admiral Kexthor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching Earth turn slowly below him. The small blue planet looked so fragile, so insignificant compared to the might of the Zephyrian Empire. His 4 arms moved across the control panels with practiced ease, each hand managing different aspects of the invasion fleet. The alien commander had overseen the conquest of 47 worlds in his career. Earth would be number 48. Admiral, his communications officer reported, "We are receiving multiple transmissions from the planet surface. They appear to be panicking." Kexthor's mandibles clicked together in what passed for laughter among his species. Of course they are panicking. They have never seen real power before. Open a channel to their entire planet. Let them hear the voice of the Empire. The transmission reached every television, radio, and communication device on Earth. Kexthor's image appeared on screens around the world, his towering 8-foot frame and 4 arms, making him look like something from humanity's worst nightmares. When he spoke, his voice was translated into every human language simultaneously. "People of Earth, I am Admiral Kexthor of the Zephyrian Empire. Your small world has been selected for incorporation into our domain. You have 72 of your hours to surrender completely. Disable all military vessels. Prepare your leaders for transfer to Imperial custody. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your planet and everyone on it. This is not a negotiation. This is an order." The transmission ended, leaving Earth in stunned silence for several seconds before chaos erupted. Every government on the planet activated emergency protocols. Air raid sirens wailed in major cities. Military bases went to high alert. But everyone who looked up at the night sky could see the alien ships, visible even in daylight as dark spots against the stars in Washington. President Linda Hayes rushed into the emergency bunker beneath the White House. The Global Defense Council had been meeting within minutes of the alien arrival, but now they faced a reality none of them had prepared for. The conference room filled, with the faces of world leaders appearing on screens, all of them asking the same question. What could humanity possibly do against such overwhelming force? General Peter Grant, the head of Earth's Combined Space Defense Force, stood before a massive display showing the alien fleet positions. His weathered face looked even older than his 63 years as he delivered the briefing everyone dreaded to hear. "The enemy has 500 warships in formation around our moon," Grant said, his voice steady despite the terrible news. "Our best intelligence suggests each ship carries enough firepower to level a major city. They have established a complete blockade of our planet. No ship can leave or enter Earth's atmosphere without their permission." President Hayes leaned forward in her chair. "What about our own forces, General? What can we bring to bear?" Grant's expression darkened. "We have 47 active military vessels capable of space combat. Most are frigates and destroyers built for asteroid mining protection and space piracy deterrence. Against an empire that has conquered 3 galactic sectors, we might as well be throwing rocks at a hurricane." The room fell silent. On the screens, world leaders looked at each other with the same expression of helpless desperation. The president of the European Federation spoke first. Perhaps we should consider their terms. If surrender means survival. Surrender means slavery," interrupted the Prime Minister of the Pacific Alliance. "Every world that has joined the Empire becomes a resource extraction colony. Their populations are relocated to work camps. Their cultures are erased." General Grant nodded grimly. "Our intelligence on the Zephyrian Empire is limited, but what we know is not encouraging. They have been expanding for over 3 centuries. No world has ever successfully resisted their conquest. No world has ever regained its freedom once. Incorporated." President Hayes stood and walked to the display showing Earth surrounded by alien warships. "How long do we have to prepare any kind of defense?" 68 hours and counting, Grant replied. But ma'am, with respect, there is no defense we can mount that would make any difference. They could destroy every major city on Earth from their current positions. They could shatter our moon and use the debris to bombard our planet. We are completely outmatched. The president stared at the display for a long moment. Behind her, the greatest military and political minds of Earth waited for her decision. The weight of 8 billion lives pressed down on her shoulders. She had been elected to lead humanity through economic challenges and climate change, not an alien invasion that could end human civilization. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility that did not exist on any official map, Commander Jake Morrison stood before a quantum communication array that had been silent for 15 years. The device suddenly activated, bathing the room in blue light. A message appeared on the screen in letters that seemed to burn themselves into the display. Black Fleet Protocol activated. Report to coordinates 127.4 north, 89.7 west. Depth 3,000 meters. Come alone. Bring nothing. Tell no one. The ghosts are awakening. Morrison stared at the message for 30 seconds before it deleted itself. The quantum array went dark, leaving no trace that it had ever activated. For a moment, the commander wondered if he had imagined it all. Then he remembered the briefing he had received 22 years ago when he first joined the Space Defense Force. A briefing that had ended with the words, "If you ever receive a Black Fleet activation, drop everything and respond immediately. The survival of humanity depends on it." Above him, the world prepared for surrender or annihilation. But Morrison knew that some secrets were worth keeping, even unto death. And some preparations took generations to complete. He grabbed his coat and headed for the door, leaving behind his official life forever. Commander Jake Morrison's submarine descended through the darkest depths of the Pacific Ocean. The small vessel creaked under the immense pressure as it passed the 3,000-meter mark. Morrison had requisitioned the submarine from the Naval Research Division without explaining his mission. His security clearance was high enough that nobody asked questions, but he knew this would be his last official act as a member of Earth's military. The coordinates led him to an underwater mountain that should not have existed. According to every map Morrison had ever seen, this section of the Pacific floor was empty. Yet here stood a massive structure rising from the ocean bottom, its surface covered in metal that seemed to bend light around itself. As his submarine approached, a section of the mountain opened like a mouth, revealing a docking bay filled with water. Morrison piloted his vessel inside and felt the water drain away around him. Artificial gravity took hold, and he found himself in a chamber large enough to hold a dozen submarines. The walls were covered in the same light-bending metal he had seen outside. When he opened his hatch, he breathed air that tasted recycled, but clean. A woman waited for him on the docking platform. She appeared to be in her 50s, with graying hair and eyes that held the weight of terrible secrets. Her uniform bore no insignia, no rank, no indication of which branch of military she served. She stepped forward as Morrison climbed out of his submarine. "Commander Morrison," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Dr. Amanda Stone. I've been waiting for this day for 22 years. Morrison shook her hand, noting the firm grip and the calluses that suggested she worked with her hands as much as her mind. "Dr. Stone, I have to admit I'm not sure what I'm doing here. The message said Black Fleet Protocol, but I thought that was just a theoretical contingency." Dr. Stone smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Commander, what do you know about Project Phantom?" "Never heard of it." "Good. That means the security protocols worked. Follow me." She led him through a series of corridors that seemed to go on forever. The walls were lined with displays showing technical specifications for ships Morrison had never seen before. The designs looked human, but incorporated technology that seemed decades ahead of anything Earth possessed. As they walked, Dr. Stone began to explain. 50 years ago, a deep space probe detected signals from an alien civilization. The messages were intercepted communications discussing the conquest of other worlds. Military analysts realized that contact with an aggressive alien species was inevitable. The question was not if they would come, but when. They passed through a security checkpoint that scanned them both with invisible beams. Dr. Stone continued her explanation as they walked. Project Phantom was established to prepare for that day. The project had unlimited funding and the highest security classification. Only 12 people on Earth knew of its existence. The project had one goal: build a fleet capable of defending humanity against an enemy with superior technology and numbers. Morrison stopped walking. A fleet? What kind of fleet? Our entire space navy has less than 50 ships. Dr. Stone turned to face him. Commander, what you're about to see exists in a space between dimensions. The ships you will witness have been constructed using technology that allows them to phase in and out of normal reality. They are invisible to conventional sensors, immune to most weapons, and capable of striking targets from dimensional space. They entered an elevator that descended for what felt like hours. When the doors opened, Morrison found himself standing on an observation deck overlooking the most incredible sight he had ever witnessed. Below him stretched a vast underground chamber filled with warships. Not the small frigates and destroyers of Earth's regular fleet, but massive vessels that looked like they could challenge anything the aliens had brought to Earth. 200 ships, Dr. Stone said quietly. Each one equipped with quantum displacement drives that allow them to exist, partially outside normal spacetime. Dark energy weapons that can phase through conventional shields. Crews trained in dimensional warfare tactics. Morrison gripped the railing of the observation deck. 200 ships? How is this possible? The construction alone would take decades. And the cost? The cost was everything, Dr. Stone replied. Every black budget project for the past 50 years contributed to this fleet. Every supposed training accident that killed promising officers, every experimental weapon that failed, publicly every research project that was officially canceled, they all fed into Project Phantom. A figure approached them from the shadows of the observation deck. Morrison turned to see a woman in a uniform he did not recognize. She was tall, with short blonde hair and scars on her face that spoke of combat experience. Her eyes held the same weight as Dr. Stone's, but with something else added: the cold confidence of someone who had prepared for war her entire life. Commander Morrison, Dr. Stone said, meet Captain Lisa Bell. She has been dead for 15 years. Morrison stared at the woman. Dead? Captain Bell stepped forward. Officially, yes. My fighter crashed during a training exercise in 2010. There was a funeral. My family mourned. But the crash was staged. I was recruited into the Black Fleet and have been training for this moment ever since. How many others? Morrison asked. Every ship down there has a full crew, Bell replied. Pilots, engineers, gunners, medical staff, all of them officially dead, all of them living in complete secrecy, preparing for the day when Earth would need ghosts to defend it. Dr. Stone gestured toward the ships below them. The Zephyrian Empire has conquered 1,000 worlds using conventional warfare. They overwhelm their enemies with superior numbers and firepower. But they have never faced an enemy that can attack from dimensional space. They have never fought ghosts. Morrison looked down at the fleet again. Each ship was a masterpiece of engineering, sleek and deadly, equipped with weapons that seemed to defy physics. Why tell me this now? Why bring me here? Captain Bell answered. Because in 60 hours the Empire expects Earth to surrender. Instead, we're going to give them a war they never imagined possible. But first, we need someone to coordinate with Earth's government. Someone who can make sure our attack happens at the right moment. The surrender has to appear real, Dr. Stone added. The Empire needs to believe they have won completely. Their fleet needs to be spread out, their guard down. Only then can we strike with maximum effect. Morrison understood. You want me to go back and help stage a fake surrender. Exactly. Earth's visible fleet will power down and prepare for boarding. The Empire will believe they have achieved total victory. And at that moment, when they are most confident and least prepared, 200 ghost ships will materialize throughout the solar system. Captain Bell moved to a control panel and activated a holographic display. The projection showed the alien fleet positions around Earth, with targeting solutions already calculated for each enemy vessel. We've been tracking their movement since they arrived. Every ship has been assigned a target. When we decloak, we'll have 15 minutes to destroy their entire fleet before they can adapt to our tactics." "What about the crews of these ships?" Morrison asked. "They've been hiding down here for years, decades in some cases. Are they ready for actual combat?" Captain Bell's expression grew hard. "Commander, every person on those ships volunteered to give up their lives for humanity. They've trained in simulators that recreate every known alien weapon system. They've studied every battle the Empire has ever fought. They know the enemy better than the enemy knows itself." Dr. Stone stepped closer to Morrison. "The question is, Commander, are you ready to help us? Are you ready to coordinate the most important deception in human history?" Morrison looked down at the ghost fleet one more time. 200 ships that did not exist, crewed by people who were not alive, preparing to fight a war that would determine the fate of humanity. He thought about the alien ships surrounding Earth, about the ultimatum that would expire in less than 3 days, about the 8 billion people who had no idea that their salvation waited in the depths of the ocean. "What do you need me to do?" President Linda Hayes stood before the cameras in the White House press room, her face showing the weight of defeat. Behind her, the flags of Earth's United Nations hung like funeral shrouds. The speech she was about to give had been written and rewritten dozens of times, each word carefully chosen to convince the watching aliens that humanity had given up all hope. "My fellow humans," she began, her voice heavy with apparent despair. "After careful consideration with the leaders of all nations, we have reached a difficult decision. The Zephyrian Empire has demonstrated power beyond our ability to resist. Further fighting would only result in the deaths of billions of innocent people. Therefore, effective immediately, Earth surrenders unconditionally to the Zephyrian Empire." Around the world, people watched their leaders' words with horror and resignation. In living rooms and public squares, humans wept openly as their president continued the surrender speech. What they did not know was that every word had been planned to save their lives. Commander Morrison sat in a secure bunker beneath the Pentagon, watching multiple screens that showed the alien fleet's reaction to the surrender announcement. Admiral Kexthor's flagship had moved closer to Earth, and Imperial boarding shuttles were already launching toward the major space stations. The alien commander was taking no chances with human deception, but his confidence was growing with every passing hour. "Phase 1 complete," Morrison spoke into his encrypted communicator. "The Empire is accepting the surrender as genuine. Their fleet is beginning to spread out for occupation duties." Deep beneath the Pacific, Captain Bell received the message, on the bridge of her flagship, the Nightfall. Around her, the crew of dead men and women prepared for their return to the living world. The ship's dimensional drive hummed with power, ready to phase back into normal space at a moment's notice. "All Black Fleet vessels, this is Nightfall Actual," Bell transmitted on the quantum frequency that connected all ghost ships. "Enemy fleet is taking the bait. Begin moving to attack positions. Maintain dimensional phase until my command." Throughout the solar system, invisible ships began their deadly dance. The Nightfall moved through dimensional space to position itself directly behind Admiral Kexthor's command ship. Other ghost vessels took positions inside asteroid fields, within the shadows of space stations, and even inside the formation of the alien fleet itself. The Zephyrians, masters of conventional warfare, had no sensors capable of detecting ships that existed partially outside normal reality. Colonel Rick Turner, Earth's head of military intelligence, played his role perfectly in the deception. When alien officers boarded the orbital defense platforms, he provided them with detailed maps of Earth's military installations, complete databases of human weapons capabilities, and personnel files of every officer in the Space Defense Force. What he did not mention was that half the information was false, and the other half was designed to make human capabilities appear even weaker than they actually were. "Your species shows wisdom in surrender," the Zephyrian boarding commander told Turner as alien troops secured the main defense station. "Resistance would have been futile. The Empire has crushed civilizations far more advanced than yours." Turner nodded respectfully while secretly noting the positions of every alien soldier. "We understand, Commander. Humanity knows when it is beaten." The alien officer's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Your military vessels will be inspected and then destroyed. Your leaders will be transported to the Imperial processing centers. Your planet will be prepared for colonial development. On Earth's surface, General Grant issued orders for all military vessels to power down their weapons and engines. 47. Ships of Earth's visible fleet went dark, floating helplessly in space as alien boarding parties approached. The crews followed their orders exactly, appearing defeated and hopeless while alien soldiers searched their ships for hidden weapons or resistance plans. What the aliens found was exactly what they expected: outdated human technology, limited weapon systems, and crews that seemed broken by the reality of defeat. The Zephyrian inspection teams reported back to their commanders that human military capability was even more primitive than their intelligence had suggested. Admiral Kexthor reviewed the reports from his boarding parties with growing satisfaction. Human weapons were centuries behind Imperial technology. Their ships were poorly armed and lightly armored. Their soldiers showed no sign of hidden fighting spirit or secret preparations. The conquest of Earth was proceeding exactly as planned. Deploy the occupation fleet, Kexthor ordered his subordinates. Spread our ships throughout this system. Establish control points at every major population center. Begin preparing the processing facilities for human relocation. The Zephyrian fleet, which had maintained tight formation during their initial approach, now scattered across the solar system. Groups of ships moved toward Mars to establish a forward base. Others positioned themselves in orbit around Earth's major cities. Mining vessels headed for the asteroid belt to begin resource extraction. The Empire's confidence had made them vulnerable in exactly the way Captain Bell had hoped. Morrison watched the alien fleet movements from his command center and smiled for the first time in days. Black Fleet Command, this is Control. Enemy. Vessels are now distributed across the entire solar system. Largest concentration is 50 ships around Earth. Secondary groups of 20 to 30 ships each at Mars, the asteroid belt, and the outer planets. They have no reserves in close formation. Captain Bell received the intelligence update and began final preparations for the attack. Her crew moved through the nightfall with deadly precision, each person knowing their role in the battle to come. Weapons Officer Danny West armed the dark energy torpedo systems. Navigation Officer Kate Sullivan prepared the quantum displacement drives for rapid phase transitions. Chief Engineer Alex Johnson brought all ship systems to full combat readiness. All stations report ready for combat. Bell's first officer reported. We are 30 seconds from attack position behind the enemy flagship. Bell studied the tactical display showing the positions of all Black Fleet vessels. 200 ghost ships were now in perfect position throughout the solar system, each one invisible to enemy sensors, each one targeting a specific alien vessel. The Empire had spread their fleet exactly as she had hoped. Now they would pay the price for their overconfidence. Black Fleet vessels, this is Nightfall Actual, Bell transmitted to her Ghost Armada. Weapons free. Prepare for coordinated alpha strike. On my mark, all ships will decloak simultaneously and engage assigned targets. We have one chance to end this war in the first 15 minutes of combat. The response came back from 200 ship commanders, ready to engage, waiting for your order. Bell looked at the chronometer, counting down the final seconds to the attack. Around her, the crew of the Nightfall prepared to return from the dead. Throughout the solar system, 1,500 ghost sailors made ready to defend their home world, with weapons the Empire had never seen before. All ships, Bell said quietly into her communicator. This is for humanity. Decloak and engage. The universe changed in an instant. 200 ghost ships materialized throughout the solar system like death itself, returning to claim what was owed. The Nightfall appeared directly behind Admiral Kexthor's flagship, so close that the alien commander could see the human ship's weapon ports opening through his rear viewing screen. Captain Bell gave her weapons officer a single nod. Fire. Dark energy torpedoes launched from the Nightfall's forward tubes, weapons that existed partially outside normal space and time. The torpedoes passed through the Zephyrian flagship's shields as if they were not there, phasing into solid matter before detonating inside the ship's hull. The Eternal Dominion, pride of the Imperial fleet, split down the middle in a brilliant explosion that lit up space for thousands of kilometers. Admiral Kexthor had exactly 3 seconds to realize his fleet was under attack before his ship's bridge exploded around him. The alien commander who had conquered 47 worlds died without understanding what had killed him. Throughout the solar system, the coordinated assault unfolded with deadly precision. Lieutenant Commander Danny West led a squadron of ghost fighters that had been hiding inside the Empire's own formation. His ships decloaked within the alien defensive perimeter, their pilots already firing at point-blank range into engine compartments and weapon systems. "Ghost Squadron, this is Ghost Leader," West transmitted to his pilots. "Targets are exactly where intelligence predicted. Engage at will." The Zephyrian ships tried to return fire, but their weapons passed harmlessly through the human fighters. The ghost ships could phase in and out of normal space at will, becoming solid only when they needed to fire their own weapons. It was like fighting enemies made of smoke and lightning. Major Kate Sullivan commanded a group of Black Fleet destroyers that used quantum entanglement to coordinate their attacks across vast distances. Her ships struck 3 different alien formations simultaneously, thousands of kilometers apart, yet moving as if they shared a single mind. The aliens had never seen tactics like this because such tactics were impossible with conventional technology. "Target the command ships first," Sullivan ordered her captains. "Cut off their communications and coordination. Make them fight as individuals instead of a fleet." Her strategy worked perfectly. Alien ships that had operated as a coordinated force for centuries suddenly found themselves isolated and confused. Their officers tried to issue orders, but their command vessels were already destroyed or disabled. The Empire's greatest strength, their disciplined organization, became useless when they could not communicate with each other. Commander Alex Johnson led a special assault team that used dimensional drives to appear directly inside alien ships. His soldiers wore combat armor that could phase through solid matter, making them impossible to fight with conventional weapons. They materialized on enemy bridges, in engine rooms, and weapon control centers, striking at the most vulnerable points of each ship. "Boarding Team Alpha, this is Johnson," he reported as his soldiers captured another alien vessel. "Target secured. Enemy crew is surrendering." The phrase, "enemy crew is surrendering," was being heard across the quantum communication network as alien after alien ship found itself overwhelmed by ghost tactics. The Zephyrian Empire, which had never lost a major battle in 3 centuries, was being systematically destroyed by an enemy they could barely comprehend. Captain Bell watched the battle unfold from the Nightfall's bridge with cold satisfaction. Her tactical display showed alien ships disappearing from the screen at an alarming rate. The Empire had brought 500 warships to conquer Earth. After 15 minutes of combat, fewer than 200 remained functional. "All Black Fleet vessels, this is Nightfall actual," Bell transmitted. "Phase 1 complete. Enemy fleet is broken and scattered. Begin Phase 2 operations. Hunt down survivors and give them one chance to surrender." The ghost ships spread out across the solar system like hunting wolves. Individual Zephyrian vessels, cut off from their command structure and facing enemies they could not fight effectively, began sending surrender signals on all frequencies. Some tried to escape, but the Black Fleet's quantum drives made running impossible. Others attempted to fight to the death, but their weapons were useless against enemies that could phase in and out of reality. On Earth, President Hayes watched the battle through the Defense Command Center's long-range sensors. The alien fleet that had seemed so overwhelming just hours before was being systematically eliminated by ships that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. She turned to General Grant, who was staring at the tactical display with amazement. "General, are we really winning this battle?" Grant nodded slowly. "Madam President, we are not just winning. We are destroying them completely. I have never seen anything like this in my entire military career." Commander Morrison coordinated the battle from his Pentagon bunker, relaying information between the Black Fleet and Earth's government. His screens showed the locations of every ghost ship and every remaining alien vessel. The battle was proceeding, better than anyone had dared hope. "Black Fleet Command, this is Control," Morrison transmitted. "Earth Defense Command reports all major alien formations have been neutralized. Estimate 70% of enemy fleet destroyed, 20% disabled, 10% attempting to surrender. The response came back from Captain Bell. Understood, Control. We are accepting surrenders from ships that comply with our instructions. Any vessel that continues hostile action will be destroyed. Throughout the solar system, the mighty Zephyrian Empire learned a lesson that no conqueror had ever taught them before. Defeat. Ships that had never known fear suddenly found themselves helpless against enemies that could attack from dimensions they did not understand. Crews that had served the Empire for generations watched their weapons fail against human technology that seemed to violate the laws of physics. The battle continued for another hour, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The Black Fleet methodically hunted down every alien ship in the solar system. Some surrendered immediately when offered the chance. Others fought until their ships were disabled and their crews forced to abandon ship. A few tried to ram human vessels in desperate suicide attacks, but the ghost ships simply phased out of normal space and let the aliens crash into empty vacuum. When the last alien weapon fell silent, Captain Bell transmitted a message that would be remembered throughout human history. All Black Fleet vessels, this is Nightfall Actual. Hostile fleet has been neutralized. Solar system is secure. Earth is free. The cheers that erupted from Earth's defense centers could be heard around the world. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged victorious through preparation, deception, and technology that the Empire could not counter. The hunters had become the hunted, and the conquerors had learned what it meant to be conquered. But the real victory was not just military. In one battle, humanity had announced to the galaxy that Earth would not be conquered, that humans could not be intimidated, and that any empire that threatened their freedom would face consequences beyond imagination. The news of the Zephyrian Empire's defeat spread across the galaxy faster than the speed of light itself. On thousands of worlds that had bowed to imperial rule, beings who had forgotten what freedom looked like lifted their heads and whispered a single word: Earth. Major Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of her destroyer, the Shadow Strike, watching as her crew processed the alien survivors they had captured. The Zephyrian officers who had seemed so arrogant just hours before now sat in holding cells, their forearms bound with restraints that could phase between dimensions. Many of them stared at their human captors with something that had never appeared in Zephyrian eyes before: fear. Commander Johnson, to all Black Fleet vessels, came the transmission from the assault team leader. We have secured the alien orbital command stations. Intelligence teams are downloading their entire database. What we are finding changes everything. Sullivan activated her communication system. This is Shadow Strike. Explain. Changes everything. Johnson's voice carried excitement and disbelief. The Empire's records show they control over 3,000 worlds, but their military strength is spread thin. Most of their fleet is tied up in occupation duties. What they sent to Earth was actually a significant portion of their mobile forces. Captain Bell's voice cut into the conversation from the Nightfall. Are you saying we just crippled their ability to respond to other threats? Exactly. And there's more. The database shows dozens of rebellion movements across the galaxy. Worlds that have been waiting for any sign that the Empire can be defeated. Our victory here is going to inspire uprisings everywhere. On Earth, President Hayes convened an emergency meeting with the Global Defense Council, but this time the mood was completely different. Instead of facing extinction, humanity now found itself in possession of the most advanced military force in the galaxy. The Black Fleet had proven that human technology could defeat any enemy, but with that power came difficult decisions. General Grant displayed a holographic map of the galaxy that showed Zephyrian territory in red. The Empire controlled a massive section of space that included thousands of inhabited worlds and countless resources. Madam President, we now have access to their star charts, their military codes, and their complete order of battle. We know where every Imperial fleet is located and how strong their defenses are. President Hayes studied the map carefully. General, what are you suggesting? We have a choice to make. We can use our new technology to simply defend Earth and hope the Empire leaves us alone. Or we can take the fight to them and liberate every world they have enslaved. Commander Morrison spoke from his position at the intelligence console. The alien database contains detailed information about slave labor camps, resource extraction operations, and population relocation programs. The Empire has been systematically destroying civilizations for centuries. Billions of beings are living under conditions we would consider crimes against humanity. The president looked around the room at her advisors. Are we talking about a war of conquest? No. Captain Bell's voice came through the communication system from her ship. We are talking about a war of liberation. The difference is that we would be freeing worlds, not enslaving them. Dr. Stone, who had remained silent throughout most of the meeting, finally spoke. Madam President, Project Phantom was designed to defend Earth, but the technology we developed makes us capable of so much more. We have ships that can strike anywhere in the galaxy without warning. We have weapons that can disable enemy fleets without causing massive casualties. We have the power to end the Empire's reign of terror. Lieutenant Commander Danny West transmitted from his fighter squadron, which was patrolling the outer solar system. I'm picking up quantum signatures from multiple ships approaching our position. They appear to be using different technology than the Empire. Requesting instructions. Captain Bell responded immediately. All ships, battle stations, unknown vessels approaching. Prepare for possible hostile contact. The tension in the command centers rose again as new threats appeared on the sensors. But these ships moved differently than the Zephyrian vessels. They approached slowly, broadcasting on multiple frequencies, in languages that Earth's computers had never heard before. Captain Bell, this is Lieutenant West. The unknown ships are transmitting what appears to be peaceful intentions. They are identifying themselves as representatives of the Free Worlds Alliance. They want to talk. Morrison quickly accessed the alien database that Johnson's teams had captured. The Free Worlds Alliance is mentioned in the Empire's files. They are a coalition of planets that managed to resist Imperial conquest. The Empire considers them their primary enemy. President Hayes made the decision quickly. Captain Bell, establish communication with these Free Worlds representatives. Let's find out what they want. The communication came through clearly, translated by technology that the Alliance had developed to communicate with dozens of different species. The voice belonged to someone who had clearly been waiting for this moment for a very long time. People of Earth, I am Admiral Zara of the Free Worlds Alliance. We have been monitoring the destruction of the Zephyrian invasion fleet. Your victory has given hope to billions of oppressed beings across the galaxy. We come to offer alliance, and to ask for your help in finishing what you have started. Captain Bell responded carefully. Admiral Zara, this is Captain Lisa Bell of the Earth Black Fleet. We are willing to discuss cooperation, but we need to understand what you are proposing. Captain Bell, the Empire's defeat at Earth has already triggered uprisings on 17 worlds. Imperial garrison forces are being overwhelmed by populations that no longer fear Zephyrian power. But these rebellions will fail unless they receive support. Your Black Fleet technology could tip the balance in favor of freedom across the entire galaxy. The holographic display in Earth's command center updated to show the locations of the reported uprisings. Red dots representing Imperial worlds were beginning to flicker as rebellion movements activated dormant resistance cells. The galaxy was erupting in revolution. Major Sullivan transmitted from the Shadow Strike. I'm receiving reports from our intelligence teams. The Empire is recalling fleets from across the galaxy to deal with the uprisings. Their forces are being stretched to the breaking point. Dr. Stone looked at the galactic map with growing excitement. This is exactly what we hoped would happen. The Empire's strength was built on fear and the belief that resistance was impossible. Our victory has shattered that belief. President Hayes stood and walked to the display showing the spreading rebellion. Admiral Zara, if we join this alliance, what exactly would you need from us? Your dimensional warfare technology gives you the ability to strike Imperial strongholds that have never been successfully attacked. Your ships can appear anywhere, without warning, and disappear before the Empire can respond. With your support, we could liberate worlds that have been enslaved for centuries. Commander Morrison pulled up detailed reports from the captured alien databases. Madam President, the Empire's records show that they have been planning to expand into our galactic sector next. Earth was just the beginning. They have target lists for dozens of other human colonies and allied species. The President realized that isolation was not an option. The Empire would eventually return in greater force, and other human settlements would face the same extinction that Earth had barely avoided. Admiral Zara, the people of Earth accept your offer of alliance. But we fight as liberators, not conquerors. Every world we free must be given the choice of its own government. Agreed, President Hayes. The Alliance has waited 300 years for this moment. Together we will end the Empire's reign of terror and bring freedom to the galaxy. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, the Zephyrian Empire's capital world of Kethmoran had become a fortress under siege. The planet's purple skies were filled with defensive platforms and patrol ships, while the surface bristled with weapon installations that had never been needed before. For the first time in 3 centuries, the Empire's rulers faced the possibility of defeat on their own homeworld. Captain Lisa Bell stood on the bridge of the Nightfall, watching the Imperial capital through her ship's dimensional sensors. Around her, the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled prepared for the final battle of the Liberation War. 200 Black Fleet vessels had grown to over 1,000 ships, as Earth's shipyards worked around the clock to build new Ghost ships using captured Zephyrian technology, combined with human dimensional drives. All fleet commanders, this is Bell Actual, she transmitted to the assembled armada. Intelligence reports indicate the Empire has recalled every available ship to defend their capital. We are facing their entire remaining fleet in this engagement. Tankon's response came from Admiral Jake Morrison, who had been promoted to command the expanded Black Fleet after his role in coordinating Earth's defense. Nightfall Actual, this is Morrison aboard the Phantom. Fleet is ready to engage. All ships report dimensional drives fully charged and weapon systems online. Below them, the planet Kethmoran represented everything the Empire had built through centuries of conquest. Cities that housed billions of Zephyrians, industrial complexes that produced warships for galactic domination, and government centers where the decision to enslave thousands of worlds had been made. But today, those same cities would witness the end of Imperial power. Commander Alex Johnson led the assault teams that would capture the planetary government once the fleet battle was won. His soldiers had perfected the art of dimensional warfare, able to phase through any defense and appear inside the most secure facilities. They had liberated dozens of worlds using these tactics, always offering surrender before resorting to force. Ground teams are ready for deployment, Johnson reported. We have identified all major government centers and military command posts. Once you clear the orbital defenses, we can secure the planet within hours. The Free Worlds Alliance fleet took positions alongside the human ships. Admiral Zara commanded a force of conventional vessels that would support the Black Fleet's dimensional assault. Over the past months, she had become one of humanity's closest allies, helping coordinate the liberation of world after world. Captain Bell, this is Admiral Zara, came the transmission from the Alliance flagship. My ships are in position to prevent any Imperial vessels from escaping the system. Today we end 3 centuries of tyranny. The battle began when the Empire's defensive fleet moved to intercept the approaching liberation forces. 300 Zephyrian warships, representing the last major concentration of Imperial power, advanced in perfect formation toward what they believed would be a conventional space battle. They were wrong. The Black Fleet's opening move was unlike anything seen in galactic warfare. 100 ghost ships phased directly into the middle of the Imperial formation, appearing so suddenly that many Zephyrian vessels collided with each other, trying to avoid the materializing human ships. Dark energy weapons fired at point-blank range, disabling engine systems and weapon arrays without destroying the ships entirely. Major Kate Sullivan coordinated the quantum entanglement attacks that struck Imperial vessels across the entire battle zone simultaneously. Her ships moved as one mind, controlling dozens of bodies, creating attack patterns that seemed impossible to counter. Every time the Empire's commanders thought they understood the human tactics, the patterns changed in ways that defied military logic. Lieutenant Commander Danny West led fighter squadrons that could phase in and out of normal space faster than Zephyrian sensors could track. His pilots struck at command ships and communication relays, cutting off Imperial coordination and leaving their fleet fighting as individual vessels instead of a unified force. The battle raged for 3 hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. Human dimensional technology had evolved far beyond what the Empire could comprehend or counter. Ships that could become intangible at will, weapons that ignored conventional defenses, and tactics that used quantum mechanics as a foundation for military strategy proved too much for Imperial forces. Emperor Drakthul himself watched the destruction of his fleet from the palace on Kethmaran's surface. The ruler who had inherited an empire spanning 3 galactic sectors was witnessing its complete collapse in real time. His military advisors stood around him in stunned silence as report after report came in of Imperial ships surrendering or being disabled. "Your Imperial Majesty," his chief military advisor reported with a voice that shook with fear. "The orbital defense grid has been neutralized. Human assault teams are materializing inside government buildings across the capital. They are demanding your surrender." The Emperor looked out at the sky where human ships now controlled the space around his world. "How is this possible? We conquered 1,000 worlds. We built the greatest empire in galactic history. How can one primitive species destroy everything we created?" Commander Johnson's voice came through the palace communication system, speaking directly to the Emperor. "Your Imperial Majesty, this is Commander Johnson of the Earth Liberation Force. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. All Imperial forces must stand down and prepare for transition to democratic governments. Any resistance will be met with immediate action." The Emperor realized that his choices had been reduced to surrender or death. Around him, his advisors were already removing their insignia of rank and preparing to negotiate with the humans. The empire that had seemed eternal was ending not with a glorious final battle, but with the simple reality that they could no longer fight an enemy they could not touch. President Hayes addressed the galaxy from the captured Imperial Palace, her words broadcast to every world that had ever known Zephyrian rule. "People of the galaxy, the Zephyrian Empire is no more. Every world is now free to choose its own government, its own future, and its own destiny. Humanity offers friendship to all species and assistance to any world that needs help building democratic institutions." The liberation of 3,000 worlds began immediately. Black Fleet ships appeared in orbit around planets that had been enslaved for generations, offering protection to populations that were finally free to govern themselves. The dimensional warfare technology that had been developed to defend Earth became the foundation for a new galactic order based on freedom rather than conquest. Captain Bell stood in the former Emperor's throne room, now converted into a coordination center for the liberation efforts. Around her, humans and aliens worked together to manage the transition from empire to democracy across thousands of worlds. The woman who had been officially dead for 15 years was now helping to give life to an entire galaxy. "Admiral Morrison, this is Bell," she transmitted to the fleet commander. "Final Imperial strongholds have surrendered. All Black Fleet vessels are reporting successful completion of liberation operations. The galaxy is free." Morrison's response carried the satisfaction of a job completed. "Understood, Captain. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Mission accomplished. The Empire's reign of terror has ended. Humanity has kept its promise to bring freedom to the stars." The galaxy that had once trembled before Zephyrian power now looked to Earth as the world that had shown them freedom was possible. Humanity's black ships no longer sailed as instruments of war, but as guardians of peace, ensuring that no species would ever again face the choice between slavery and extinction. The age of empires was over. The age of freedom had begun,